Hello and welcome to episode 46 of the LiveFitNow Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. As always, I'm very excited for you to hear today's conversation. It's all about manifestation. We cover so many things within that. I just want to mention that there are a few technical issues. The internet was not our best friend on the day of recording, but this is such a great conversation. Although every now and again the audio does dip slightly, there's so much good content. You've got to hear it. So I hope you can hang in there and bear with it. I tried to get it up to the level where it is listenable still. I'm going to dive straight in and leave you with the conversation. My guest today is founder of Vibe and Flow, an online self-development brand all about harnessing the power of manifestation and mindset through the use of visualizations, affirmations, journaling prompts, and scripting. We will be chatting about what it is that she does and how we can all access the powers within us to embrace our full potential. Her name is Chloe Slade. Welcome to the Live Fit Now podcast. Thank you for joining me today. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm really well, thank you. I'm really excited to chat to you today, so thank you.
Me too, can't wait. So I love to just get started with these conversations, really just allowing you to tell us a little bit about your background, what it is you do, why you do it.
Yeah, definitely. So I help people harness the power of mindset and manifestation. I truly believe that everyone here is here for a purpose and they've got so much good to experience and give. So essentially what I help people do is use parts of their mind to kind of attract to design the kind of life that they want to lead. So for example, it's all, I think we were talking about this just before we jumped on, there's a bit of a warped perspective of manifestation. So my kind of passion, if you will, is to help people just understand it in a really actionable way. And I think it might be worth just sort of addressing what manifestation is, which is basically where your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, and your beliefs create a result. And that can be a negative, positive, or neutral result. So the idea is that we use like tools like the cards or like journal or whatever it may be to direct your focus to essentially attract in the things that you do want.
Yeah, I think that list you just said, and actually what is manifestation was my next question.
No.
I think a lot of people think it's almost just about the thoughts. I think there's some slightly misguided information out there and perhaps some books that people have read but not fully taken in. That it's not just about thinking about wishing what you want, but you actually have to then guide your actions to that. It's very much about the action as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that like you say, the common misconception is that you just think that you sit on the sofa and you go, yeah, please, I want to attract this amount of money or this person or, you know, whatever it may be. But the thing is we're always manifesting. So the reason, you know, like I said, your thoughts, your feeling, your action, belief, I'm not actually teaching you how to manifest because everyone's doing that naturally. I'm teaching you how to harness the power of manifestation, because unless you're meditating or you're very like able to still your entire thoughts, feelings, actions, and beliefs, which you can't obviously do for a long period of time, you're always creating that next reality. So yeah, I think there is a common misconception of sitting on the sofa and just hoping and wishing and everything will come. The thing is, you don't actually get what you want through manifestation. You get what you believe is possible and what you're aligning with. So if you're aligning yourself with a negative result, and I don't mean this to like scare anyone or anything like that, but if you're kind of going along the lines of, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not be enough, you know, everything I do turns bad, then that's the kind of reality that you're aligning with. So it's not necessarily saying, oh, you're the problem. It's saying, here's some ways to harness your power and tap into that so you can start creating the kind of life you want to lead.
No, that differentiation actually really does make sense. It's not just about the dream, it's actually believing that you can get there, because if you don't believe that, it's not going to happen. I can see that.
I think there's a lot of I've seen it before, and I know a lot of people this is where they've probably had a bad taste of manifestation, is where, you know, someone will say it's your fault, you've got this whole responsibility, you're creating this horrible thing that happened to you. And it's not even that at all. It's the awareness. And, you know, by anyone just listening to this right now, they've already taken that first step to become aware of, okay, so where is my focus? What sort of things have I been focusing on? What sort of you know, social media, TV, friends, you know, things have I been consuming, and does that actually reflect the life that I want to lead?
And do you think that's a good place to start, to actually think about what your life is now and where you want it to be? Is that kind of a good place to, even before you start taking steps to get where you want to go, to think about what you are now?
Yeah, definitely. Your life right now is not a reflection of you right now. Your life right now is a reflection of your past, you know, your past thoughts, feelings, actions, and beliefs. And right now, you're creating the next experience you'll have. And what I say as well is, there's a lot of fear of, oh, I've had a negative thought, or I thought something bad. Does that mean I've attracted that into my life? And it's like, no, it's your dominant thoughts, feelings, actions, and beliefs. So it's the thoughts you're thinking. You know, if you have a bad thought, that's okay. There's ways that you can direct that and rechange it and all of those things. And it's the same way as if you eat a piece of cake once, it's not all, you know, if you eat it every single meal, it's going to have a different, you know, it's not going to give you the nutritional value or whatever. I do like cake, but, you know, that's the idea of it, is that, you know, one bad thing is not going to be a bad result. One good thing is not going to be a good result. It's your dominant thoughts, feelings, actions, and beliefs.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And is it also how you can choose to frame things? Because I, you know, notice a lot of your posts are very much about the way you can reword. You can be almost saying the same thing, but one or two words change can give it a very different meaning.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I think it was yesterday I put up a reel and I said, you can have a savings fund and it can have that purpose of, you know, that safety or that security, but the intention you give it is paramount. If you say it's a rainy day fund, what you're saying there is you're making space, you're making room for a rainy day to come. But if you say it's my abundance fund, even if a rainy day did come, you've got the solution, you've got the safety net, but it's also given that, you know, it's given that freedom. It's saying, oh, you know what, if something happened, I've got the freedom to have the choice of what I want to do next. I have to go and do something. So it's a subtle change. It may say have the same purpose for you, but if you change the intention behind it, aka abundance, that feels way more empowering. So it's more about empowering yourself to start believing that you're capable or you're worthy. I work with a lot of people when it comes down to the thought of what they think they're capable of, and even people who are at a really high level in their life or their business, they're still getting to that next level, you know.
Yeah, there's always room to grow, isn't there?
Definitely.
So I can very much see that you help other people on their manifestation journey. I'm guessing this stems from your own. How did you and when did you start becoming aware of it, and how did it become powerful in your life?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was a process for sure. I was probably one of the more cynical people. I think I probably had quite a lot of anger and resentment to certain things in my life, and I probably was a very very different person to how I am now. And I think the process of that was, you know, first of all, I came across, you know, the book The Secret, that a lot of people come across. You know, you know, a lot of people speak about it now, but it's actually been it's been around for ages, and a movie as well. But I came across that, and I was never thinking, oh, I'm going to make a career out of this or anything like that. It was a completely different industry. And it kind of just became not an obsession, but something I was just so interested in. And I just felt so cool to start learning more. Obviously, that was 5-6 years ago now, but it was a process of, okay, like, let's do next things work, because The Secret, obviously, I'm sure, but it does just talk about one of the universal laws, and there's lots of universal laws. So it obviously talks about the law of attraction. I think people think the law of attraction is manifestation, whereas it encompasses like the law of attraction. You know, there's the law of action and the law of polarity, and, you know, all of these different things. So for me, it was starting to understand that, okay, this is the surface, let's dig deeper. And then it was kind of a process. My partner and I have an accountancy firm as well, so it was kind of like I had some time at some point to start working on something new, and that's where Vibe and Flow kind of came from. It was the idea of, okay, I've changed my life drastically through using these ideas. How can I help people with that now? So it was a process. It was a slow one. It was you know, taking different courses, learning different things. But ultimately it came to not ahead, but that came to fruition when I created the 90-day journal, which was a few different versions away from what it is now, but that was what I created first of all. So yeah, it was a process. It was just kind of naturally happened. I don't want to say I fell into it, but it did feel very natural.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love that. And I think when you actually go through the process yourself, it's so much easier to share that with other people then as well, because you, particularly if you started from being a skeptical, I think that's always quite useful to know, because if you are on that end of the scale, which of course there are plenty of people that are, but you just have to be open enough to open the door to start listening. So I think is there 12 universal laws, is that right?
Yes, I teach the 12 universal laws. There are some overlap. Some people call the same thing a different name, or some people teach 14 or whatever it is, but I chose 12 because I feel that they really encompass the whole idea. And yeah, it was definitely let's look at this. And I think because it had come from a very different fear and not overwhelmed, just that there's low vibration feelings, and people say, oh, you explain it in a way that I can understand, and I'm like, yeah, because I totally get why you would question it, and I did too, but this is the process that I've been through. So yeah, I think that's why I'm so passionate, because I'm like, it doesn't have to be all untangible. It can be very actionable and practical too.
Yeah. Do you think the reason the law of attraction is focused upon so much, particularly The Secret, is it because it's most appealing? Is it the most powerful one? Is it more about the appeal?
Good question. I don't know if it's not necessarily more or less powerful. It's kind of like the law of gravity, it's not necessarily more or less than another law. It's just kind of the way it is. I mean, I think and sometimes by getting that polar opposite, you can get clarity on what it is that you do want. And obviously the law of action is taking aligned, inspired action. So I think maybe it's a little bit more magical, and I think that can give people hope, and I think hope's very important. So law of attraction, incredible law when used in harmony with the other laws as well.
I guess I'd like to move on, because I know there are so many tools that you've put together in order to be able to help people. You've already mentioned that you've got your 90-day manifestation journal. So I'm guessing you think that journaling is one of the powerful ways that you can start to put into action the things that you want.
Yeah, I would say journaling, affirmations, and visualization. So apologies if you've ever heard me say this before, but it's something that I use because it's quite an easy way of explaining how it works. So visualization is a way of changing a part of your brain called the reticular activating system. Basically, this is a network. It's me massively simplifying it, but it's basically like a filtering system. So it will filter out, and as you go through your day, it will point out things, because as you go through your day, even if you look around your surroundings right now, you can't possibly take in absolutely everything that's around you. You physically can't. So your filtering system, this reticular activating system, will start to point out things that's important to you based on your belief system. So if someone would believe that they weren't good enough, right, and they weren't worthy or weren't capable, if that was a deep-rooted belief, and then they went on Instagram and they saw someone in their niche and they were thriving, they were doing incredibly, they could look at that and their reticular activating system could go, well, look, they've done it now. No reason why you should. You have got nothing to add here, and it could go down that route. But if their belief system is programmed to think more positively, like it's possible for me, if someone else can do it, I can do it too, and they go onto the same app closer to me, I can do that too now, because if they've made it possible for them, that means it's physically possible. I can do the same. I am capable. So that's like the same situation, but just a different perspective. And
a good example that everyone will know is if they ever start looking for a new car, you'll never see the model of car that you're looking for more than until you start looking for it. So it's that part of the brain that's doing that.
Perfect example. Yeah, perfect example. Yeah, exactly. So you'll just notice it more, right? If I said, guys, go and see a black Range Rover, you're all gonna go probably see them today. It is exactly that. And that visualization is a way of reprogramming that to be actually, like I said, directing your focus to what it is that you want, that you are capable, or that you're enough, that you can do this. So visualization, obviously journaling, help you with that, and affirmations.
With the visualizations, what ways do you most recommend? I mean, do you literally just think that, sit there thinking about it? Do you like visualization boards? Are there other methods? So there's the two that are popping into my mind.
Yeah, there's so many. So on our membership, that's what I'll do, is I'll provide like guided visualizations and guided journaling sessions, and guided scripting, which is a blend of the two. But one of my favorite ways, and I do this with a lot of one-to-one clients, is the 10 minutes ago visualization. So essentially what you do is you imagine just 10 minutes ago, you found out that you achieved the goal, you got the phone call for the job, you got whatever it is you're investing, right? 10 minutes ago it happened. Now, the reason that this visualization is so powerful is because it taps you into the feeling, because not too much would have changed, right? You wouldn't have suddenly gone, oh, I live in a completely different location, a completely different house, and I drive a completely different car. If it happened just 10 minutes ago, you can get on board with that, because you're still in the same situation, same surroundings, but you found out that you've got it, you've done it. And that evokes so much energy and so much feeling and so much excitement in you that you then can tap into that feeling, and that's the vibration. You've instantly raised your vibration. So you can do that in 30 seconds, right? You can imagine that you just found out that you did it in your job, or you saw your bank balance and you hit your income goal, or whatever it may be, and you can imagine that and you can tap into the feeling. So there's loads of different ways in answer to your question, but that's one of my favorites that I think is quite easily accessible to someone who's just starting.
Yeah, like you literally don't need anything really, do you? Because you don't need to sit down and get all the bits out to make a big board. You can just literally imagine it very, very simply. That's a great example. Is it important to, I feel like this is limiting by even saying this, but to set yourself a realistic visualization, or at least like a timeline? If someone were to say, oh, I want to be a millionaire, I'm assuming it needs to be more specific in order to get.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. So in the sense of, you don't want to put like, oh, really, you can't do it, it's never going to be possible for you, but it's easier to a goal that you believe is possible, it's in the realm of your existence. So if you've got minus figures in your bank balance and you go, tomorrow I'm going to be a millionaire, that's going to create technically, yes, it's possible, but it's going to create so much resistance. You're not going to believe it's possible. Remember, you don't get what you attract, you believe what you think you can attract. So that's not going to happen. But what you could do is you could say, I'm going to new client for X amount a month, or whatever it may be, and that might feel feasible for you. Or you can start at a lower level, whatever works for you, or a higher level. But yeah, I definitely think setting small wins at first will start your confidence. That parking space, that's a classic example with manifestation. Is imagine you can get the parking space, and lo and behold, there's the parking space. What happens, it's the resistance you have to your goal. So if you have so much resistance and so many limiting beliefs or with that particular thing, then it's going to be harder for you to manifest. It's going to be more of a process. It's not impossible, not by any means, but it's easier to start to build up, because there's infinite possibilities, right? You don't saying I'm going to add an extra £1,000 to my income a month. It doesn't mean that you can't in future months add £2,000 or whatever it may be, right? It's about that process.
Yeah, it's almost like allowing yourself to actually succeed, which will therefore give you more confidence to believe in yourself more. It's a process rather than one big jump.
Definitely, 100%.
Now, something I think it would be really useful to go into and get you to explain what it is a little bit more. What exactly is scripting?
Yes, scripting. I go on about it a lot, don't I? Scripting is basically where you write a journal entry as if you're already that version of you. So you tap in to that desire and you approach it and you write as if it's just happened or it's happening. So it's not, oh, I want this to happen, I wish this to happen. It's already happened. Excuse me. So basically what you do is you grab about the page in your journal, you think about what it is that you want to attract into your life, and again, something that feels that it's possible is really great. Right, is achieved it. There's definitely a process that you go through, which I teach, but essentially what you're doing is you're saying, I'm so happy and grateful now that I make, I don't know, 5K a month, right? So now I make 5K a month, I feel this, this, and this. Now that I make this money, I'm allowed, or I can do this, this, and this. So you're saying, coming from a place of reflecting on a goal as if you've already achieved it, and you're tapping into that feeling. So it's like a future journal entry that you do now, and without a doubt, that's the most incredible tool that I use to attract what I want into my life.
So it's a similar application, I guess, as the 10-minute ago visualization, but you're writing it down. Do you think that's one of the key factors? Do you think writing it down is one of the most powerful things that people can do?
Yeah, it's a form of written visualization. That's basically what scripting is. And because you are writing it down, it makes it a little bit more real. It helps you into and out of it. You can really tune into what it's like conscious, you're deciding on a thought, and that's a very powerful to do. Also, writing is a portal to your subconscious mind, so it can communicate in that way. Because you're writing as well, you're being very present, you're not getting distracted, whereas visualization, you can easily get distracted because it's on the mind and you think about that shopping to-do list, and in fact you need to get milk. Whereas with written, you are very sure, yeah, because you've written that, you're writing down, you are able to really be present in the moment, and as a result, it is, it's very focused, and it's very much about your attention, what you're deciding in that moment.
Yeah, that makes sense. Another thing I'd like you to explain is affirmations. What exactly are they? Again, I think a lot of these words are bandied about a lot at the moment, but I'm not sure how much people fully understand what they mean and how they can all slot together as well. So what are affirmations?
Yeah, so it's basically a statement of affirming something. So you're basically saying it as a statement, as if that is what is so, right? So could you do a negative affirmation? Yes, if you were to choose negative words. And the biggest thing with affirmations as well is that you write in a positive sense. So don't say, for example, let me think, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but if you said something like, oh, I'm so glad now that I don't have to worry about money, your subconscious mind is not going to pick up on don't. It's just going to pick up and worry about money. So that's not a good strong affirmation. Whereas if you're like, I'm so happy and grateful now, money's flowing to me abundantly with ease and joy, that is a way more affirming statement. So what I say is try and start with I am, and then think about what it is that you want to attract into your life, and say it like that. Like, I am confident, I am organized. And there's lots of different ways you can do affirmations, but it's basically affirming a statement as if it's true.
Yeah, so it can be a thing, a thought, a feeling. It's not really limited in that way.
Yeah, definitely. And my most powerful, I like to use affirmations in a couple of ways. Well, there's loads of ways you can use them, but I create subliminals for my courses and my membership. And basically what, I just released one which was a focus subliminal, and basically what that is a sound, but underlying that is a load of affirmations sped up and said normally, and it's kind of layered sound, and it's very quiet. Your conscious mind won't pick up on it, but your subconscious mind, it's like a sponge. It's almost like background noise, and essentially you start to pick up on it and the affirmation way. So it's kind of just affirming a certain way of thinking. Or so you could say something like, I feel so happy that money is flowing to me abundantly, I feel free. Or you could say something like, I'm so glad that it's something positive. It's more about the thought and the feeling when it comes to affirmations. But all it really is a statement that's affirming a certain I was basically just saying that in summary, an affirmation is a statement that affirms a certain belief.
Do you find there's obviously lots of tools here that can be really useful in finding this, but do you find that people need to use a combination of all of them, or do they find particular ones that work for them best?
I would say have a play, and that approach it like you're playing, like a child, all these different things to see what they work. Don't see it as, oh, here's another chore that I have to do, here's another thing to add to the to-do list. Don't come with that approach, otherwise it's always going to feel like that, and that energy will do whatever you're doing. So yeah, I think affirmations, journaling, visualization are all good places to start. It's about creating your what you can do. And I work with a whole variation of people with completely different lifestyles. Someone who maybe has children in the morning can't do a super long routine, and they need a couple of things that are just going to keep them into that focus, say direct their focus, get them started, direct their mind. For example, like I said, with one of the Lift Vibe and Flow membership residents, whilst she's getting her children ready and eating breakfast with them, she gets them involved with it. Whereas someone maybe who doesn't have children, maybe doesn't can change their routine based on that, whatever the lifestyle looks like. So it's very much about thinking, what can I make this for? And what I'd recommend is that you write a list, and from that list you'd maybe look at your morning routine or your evening routine, whatever works for you, because your morning and your evening are quite standard either side of your day. I say start with them. So what I would recommend doing is writing out your existing routine and thinking, okay, how can I blend in manifestation rituals that work for me? So for example, I think I put my morning routine up on Instagram today, and I have my affirmation manifestation cards next to my coffee cup. So once my coffee's brewing, I'll pull a card, I'll do my journaling, and while brewing, I'm utilizing that time. So if you make tea or coffee in the morning, sitting around for a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes, then what can you do in that time? As you're getting ready, can you listen to something that's going to help, affirmations, subliminals, mind food, anything that's going to start replenishing your mind? You're already getting ready, so all you need to do is listen to something. So it's very much about, what does your existing routine look like? What can you make time for? So I think that's why a lot of people like the journal, because it takes 5 minutes and they can do it when they wake up, they can do it as they drink their coffee. It's easy to blend in the day, whereas a 50-minute meditation, yes, it could be very helpful, but can it work for you? So that's up to you, right?
Yeah, habit stacking is really useful, isn't it? I think it makes it so much more likely to actually happen. I think when you try and make too big a block for anything, it becomes harder to implement, particularly at the beginning, I think, when you're trying to start with something completely new. So there really is no minimum time that you can commit to it. Even a couple of minutes a day is going to get you started.
Yeah, definitely. I think anything that you're doing to start taking charge of your life and deciding that you're going to commit to yourself. And I think there's especially in this kind of day and age, is everything's so quick and fast paced, and everyone wants something instantly, and you need stuff that works for you, and that comes down to I think health, fitness, manifestation. You need to make sure it comes and works for you and your style. So like you say, there's no special amount of time that you should be doing or you have to be using. I have looked at when I was thinking about the money manifestation cards, I was like, okay, what can I do that's going to be a tool that someone can use visually, that's something physical, it's not intangible, they can use the tool itself as a physical cue to use. Take up so much time where it feels like it's a whole, those YouTube routines that you watch and it's like an hour and a half before they actually start their day, and it's not realistic for a lot of people. I was like, right, we need something that's going to take a couple of seconds to go and get my manifestation cards, but take a couple of seconds, try and implement that in your day. It doesn't need to be like all or nothing. Start adding as opposed to try and doing it all.
Yeah. So your money affirmation cards are your new product now. I'm guessing because you were saying about the partnership you've got with the accountants. Is that how money became a topic that you covered a lot, or is it just something that came up a lot with your clients, that often goals that people have or the things they want to focus upon is surrounding money?
Money became something I became passionate to talk about because I had so many deep-rooted limiting beliefs around money. I did around love. Love for me was very easy. It was, going back to childhood, that was love was surrounded by me completely as a child, right? So for me, I know other people with, limiting beliefs around relationships, but for me, that wasn't a thing. For me, my biggest thing was money, right? And because of that, and because also I could see how the work really helped me overcome those things, that's why I became so passionate about it. So it wasn't really, the fact that, I had a pattern or anything like that. It was genuinely because I was like, right, this is the biggest transformation that I've had, and how much it impacts, and it comes a lot down to what you think, what you think you're capable of. And obviously, if you've never done anything, and then charging an hour may not be like the best approach, but it's about working towards a certain goal and then starting to build your worth and seeing that, oh, actually I can do this. If like a personal trainer, for example, if you've got no experience, you can't, and you don't know your qualifications, and you don't know anything about the industry, obviously there's a process you have to go through before you can start charging. It's about the work and realizing that you're capable of doing the work to get there.
Yeah, no, I think that makes complete sense. Again, it's that whole personal experience, isn't it? And also, I just think there are key factors that people do hold a lot of limiting beliefs around, and obviously money is one. And also talking about money, I think, is so, I mean, it's getting better, I think, but it's still one of those topics that people get a little bit awkward about. But actually that in itself is probably also all linked with that limiting belief, I would imagine.
Yes, I've got like a weird belief, not weird, like a strong belief about the fact you need to have to talk about money for you to get it, if that makes sense. You need to work on it, on yourself, and what you believe in. So I think it's the fact that we put money on a big pedestal as a society, right? Someone's successful if they earn this amount, or if they make those 10K months or the 20K months or whatever, that's a beam of success. But the thing is there's so many different elements that come into your life, that your emotional well-being, your relationships, your health, your family, money, your impact, your career. Money is a tool, and that's why we have so much problems with it, because it's like putting, like, I don't know, a printer on a pedestal, right? It's no different, it's a tool. Or the common example we use is a knife, a knife to create a lovely meal for your family, or it could be used to do harm. And that's exactly what money is. It's a tool. And I think because people put so much pressure and so much, like I said, put it on a pedestal, that's where the problem comes in. If you just see it as a tool that's abundant, and the more you have of that tool, the more you can help. That was one of the biggest things I had to overcome personally, is I believe that it would be liked, or I had to really strongly get into me, was that the more money I have, the more I can help, the more I can donate, the more that I can help my friends, my family. So that was something that I had to overcome personally. But yeah, I think it comes down to the fact we put it on a pedestal, and it doesn't even need to be this whole thing. I know that everyone wants to talk about it, and that's become like the new thing, that we need to talk about it, and I get that. But also, it doesn't need to be this huge thing. It can just be.
I was just going to say, you were saying how it doesn't need to be a big thing. Again, is it about aligning it to where it needs to be for what you need for the life that you want?
Yeah, definitely. I genuinely think we put so much pressure, and I get why people want to talk about it, and that there is a, the gender pay gap, of course, that's a huge thing, that those things need to be talked about. But in terms of like, what's a lot of money to one person versus what's a lot of money to someone else, and how much money do you actually need to live the life that you want? I bet it's a lot less than what you think. You think, oh, I need like £1 million to be able to live this lifestyle, or however, insert it, whatever amount you're putting on. I work with a lot of people, and they say, I want to make the 5K month, the 10K month, 10K month. Okay, but what's that going to allow you to do? Do you know how you're going to save, distribute, spend that money? and what's the different levels you're getting to. I think if anyone's listening and they're wanting to up level that game, write where you're at right now, write what your basic, what you need to live, and then write down the extra things that you want. Do you want more holidays? Do you want to have that meal kit? Do you want to have a flower delivery each week? Do you want to be able to take more time off? What's the money going to allow you to do? Because ultimately it's not the number in your bank, and it's not the the digital number, and it's not the piece of paper that you're striving for, it's what it represents.
Yeah, what it allows you to do, what freedom. Now that does actually make a lot of sense. And actually I was just thinking, because this obviously, if someone is thinking they want to start looking at this stuff, how many things can you try and focus on at once? If you're just looking at, should you just focus on one thing, like money being an example, or can you look at the big picture of everything, or is that just too overwhelming?
Good question. It definitely depends on what sort of personality type, kind of person you are. There's that in itself is a whole thing. But I mean, you'll know yourself, right? So you'll know what kind of, do you get overwhelmed, or does lots of things excite you? If you're someone that easily gets overwhelmed, then maybe 1 to 2 things is something that you should focus on. If you're someone who thrives on all these different projects and completes them, which is the key thing, becomes a finisher in them, then maybe more projects would be better for you. What I would recommend doing is a couple of things. When I work with people one-to-one, we set between 1 and 3 areas of their life that they want to work on. So it's not 10, it's not 20, it's just 3 things, or 1 to 3 things that they really want to move forward on. And what I'd recommend is you look at your life. I mean, in the journal, there's a little life audit. Go through, money and career, 2 separate things. We like to band them together, but they're 2 separate things. You could be making a lot of money, hate what you do. You could love what you do, not be charging your worth. They're 2 separate things. So you need to look at your life. You need to go, right, what are the 1 to 3 things that if I changed or I up leveled would massively change my life? What sort of 3 things? And then from there you can go, okay, well, my health, my relationships, and my career, these 3 things, they're going to massively impact my life if I work on them. And that's your focus, but it will look different for everyone.
Yeah, it's a big part of that, because whatever we are focusing upon takes energy, and I don't know if this is a limiting belief as well, we only have so much energy. So if we try and spread it too far, it's very difficult to focus upon anything. Or is that limiting?
I think that there's a lot of energy that you have, and I think there's a lot of things that zap the energy. So looking at the things that zap the energy, too much time on social media, the low vibe, that's another activity that I do with people, is I say, what contributes to your energy and what takes away from your energy? Because from just understanding that, you could get lots of time and energy back, right? That you could redirect into other areas of your life. So for me, social media is a big one. Mess, I'm quite a messy person, but I hate mess, so it's a very nice sort of blend that I do there. And I know that's part of the thing that I'm identifying with. That's the whole thing in myself. But I think when it comes down to your energy, you should look at the things that are energizing you. Yeah, so look at the things that energize you. Take stock, even write it down. These things energize me. These things decrease my energy. What can you do? How can you reallocate how you're spending your energy and your time? And from there may be things that raise your energy, doing certain maybe exercise, or seeing a certain person. Those things raise your energy, decrease your energy. So it's just working out how energy plays out in your life. And there's be completely different, based on your all of these different things will be sort of dictating how much energy you do have in a day.
So it's a good place to start, is to just be a little bit more aware of how things are making you feel. I know if I listen to some good music and sing or dance along to it, definitely raises the vibes, whereas if there's a lack of energy in the room, it brings you down to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think what I always say is with awareness choice. So anyone who's listened today, massive tip, because you've already started to become aware, right? You've taken a step just by listening to this today. You started to think, you started to redirect your mind. But from there, what you want to do is think, okay, what do I want? My biggest thing, and this is the biggest thing that I use, this is kind of where Vibe Flow started. It's my passion, my mission, is to help people look at their focus. So if you look around right now and you look at your life and you say, I don't like these things. These are not things I want to be doing or having or experiencing in my life. Okay, what can you do to direct your focus? Now, of course, there's things that come up in life that are out of your control, and that's a completely different ball game. We can talk about that today. There will be things you can control, and what you want to do is work on the things you can control, because there's this idea, and I think I've said this a lot today in my one-to-ones, but there's the illusion of control, and we think, oh, I can relationship, or I can control how I'm going to get girls, or I can control whatever, right? The illusion of control. And then when we lose that control, or what we have, that's where we think, oh my goodness, like I feel so awful. But it's because we thought we had something that we never did. What I always say is, you want to focus on the how you're showing up for something, not the how it's going to happen.
Yeah, that makes sense. And how you deal with stuff that's happening to you, I guess, how you interpret it. You can have a very positive, negative take on something that's happening. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't there? There's so many different ways you can look at things if you're thinking about it.
Yeah, definitely. And there's definitely things, there's a lot of things that I haven't experienced and want to experience. But what I like to think of is, okay, what do I actually have power over? I have power. Anything I really have any power over is what I choose to focus on. I can't control people, I can't control things, I can't control world events, but I can control where I'm focusing, and then I can change my thoughts, my feelings, actions, and beliefs to align with that. So I think the biggest thing is realizing, like, I would never want someone to listen to some of this and think, oh, I am the problem, like the reason that my life isn't where I want to be, I'm the problem. No, because you didn't know, you weren't aware of these different things. But now what you can do with that awareness is you can choose to start changing little tweaks. It doesn't have to be a huge overhaul, little tweaks that you feel that is accessible to you. And what it's more about is empowering you to say, life's not happening to you, it's happening for you. So what would you actually like to, what would you like into your life, and believe that you can get that.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And there's a question I like to ask everybody, and that is, we probably touched on at least one of them. Are there any common myths linked to all the stuff that you do in your industry that you would like to debunk?
Yeah, there's probably a lot, but with that manifestation is that, like I said at the start, that it's something you learn. It's something that you're always doing, but you learn how to harness. And I think that's a really powerful thing, because when you realize, okay, thoughts are creating a result, then you can go, okay, what is the result I want? How can I ensure that I reflect my thoughts, my feelings, my actions, and my beliefs, that result?
Do you think sometimes when people start to look at doing these things, and I've talked to a couple of people about meditation, I know one of the limiting things with that is that people give it a try and then think they can't do it. And I'm guessing that anything like manifestation is going to also be along the same lines, that it takes work, it takes practice, it's ongoing, it's constantly a process to try different things with. Don't just give up if you don't take to the first thing you try. Would I be right?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's about, like we said earlier, finding stuff that works for you. If you're someone who absolutely hates writing with all passion and it's the biggest chore in the world, then journaling may not be the best route for you. I do think journaling is a very powerful tool. It's something obviously that I teach through and through, and I think it's a very, even if you don't think you like journaling, you can normally change that. However, if you really hate it, then don't do that. Try a different technique. Try and just see what works for you, and it will be trial and error. But like anything in life, it's about the process. And I always say, fall in love with the process. Don't make it such a thing where, like, when you're following just the money or following just a result, or it shouldn't be just, it should be encompassing. That's why I say, with money, the best way is to be following joy, because if you're fully loving what you're going to be doing, people will pick up on that. If I came up on today and I really hated what I do, you would know. You'd be like, she does not want to be here. And I've had jobs like that, I know strangers to jobs like that, but you've got to definitely focus on, and that's what I'm very grateful for my partner. He was, for the longest time, he was literally like, do the thing that lights you up, you know, that you're passionate about, that makes you feel good. Like, do it. Just like, for the longest time I was like, oh, but I can't do it my way, you know, can't make the money that way, and that again was a limiting belief. So I think it's just about bringing that consciousness, that awareness, and deciding what you want and aligning with it.
You have to believe that you can get it before you're there.
Yeah, definitely.
I've got another big question that I like to ask everybody, and that is, what inspires you?
Oh, that is a good question. What inspires me? Being able to live a life on my terms. You know, that's always evolving. That's definitely always changing, and it changes with the seasons that I go through, and, you know, as my life develops. And I'm sure it will look very different in a couple of years' time, and when my priorities shift again. But what inspires me is being able to actually have an element of power within that, and not just being a passive sort of passenger on my own life. That inspires me so much, because if I don't believe that, then I just feel like there's so much, like, everything becomes pointless. If that makes sense. Sounds very morbid, but it does. So I think I genuinely believe that we are all here to experience an element or area of life, and I think we've all got purpose. But I do think there's a lot of things that have happened in the physical world that have dulled, numbed, and, you know, made us forget.
Yeah.
You know, that we are live world, and unfortunately there are a lot of things that are happening. But I genuinely believe that if you work on you have more power to help those bad things. You know, you can donate to the charities, you can do the work, you can have that awareness, you can use your platform to share things, but you can't help people from a place of being in the same situation. And, you know, that's where the money thing came for me, is that I can help more people if I can attract it myself.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, and it touched on an area that always seems to run through all my conversations with this podcast, and really why I started it is the fact that we are growing and changing and evolving all the time, and we will continue to do so for our entire lives. How often do you think we need to, and perhaps it just feels right at sometimes, but how often do you think it's good to actually really take a step back and think about that big picture? Because, like you say, every couple of years it is likely to evolve. Is that something you are aware of most days or weeks, or do you think of it more on an annual or just when it feels right to do? Is there any sort of guide to how that can?
Yeah, I think you should be as present as you can, but there's times where you need to bring attention to that present moment. And for me, I don't think you do it in line with how I'm feeling. And if I notice, you know, we get dips in our emotions. There'll be times you feel better, there'll be times you feel worse. But if there is a consistent theme of a low vibration feeling, then that needs to be looked at. And there's different ways, you know, therapists or mindset work. It depends on what level you're at and where you're at in your life. But I think notice the patterns. It all stems from being aware. The biggest thing I hope people take from this day is, number one, awareness, becoming aware of where you're at, that taking stock. And then the second thing being your focus of where you want that to be. And is it, what are you focusing on? And does that support and reflect the life you want to live?
Yeah, it's such a simple and powerful message. And actually, I think you kind of answered my last question. I was going to say, if there was one thing that you think everyone would benefit from knowing, what would that be? But actually, I think you've already said it.
Yeah, I just hope someone listens to this and goes, you know what, that's empowered me to think about, what do I want? Where do I want my focus to be? And I hope, even if it's just for a couple of seconds after you've listened and finished this recording, I hope someone goes, actually, yeah, there's this area of my life I do want to change. And okay, what can I do that's going to empower me to start changing that? And there's a lot of things that are out of your control, right? If it's physically out of your control, then focus on what you can control and what you can change and how you can show up. And the perfect example of this is, you know, you don't know the exact person that's going to sign up to your program at the exact time in the exact way. You can show up for that and serve as people and get ready for that and make it possible for them to sign up, but you're not going to know the latter. So stop focusing on that, focusing on how you can serve, show up, and essentially serve your purpose.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I'm sure there is going to be so much taken home from this episode. So thank you for sharing this. If my audience would like to get in touch with you, where is the best place to find you on the internet? And I'll pop it all in the show notes.
Thank you. Yeah, so vibeandflow.com is the website. That's where you can find out about the membership, the one-to-one coaching, the affirmation cards, journals, all of those things. But on Instagram, I always muddle up my words when I say this. It's Chloe Slade on my personal Instagram, and then it's vibe_and_flow for Vibe and Flow's account. So yeah, I'd love to, if you listen to this and you'd like to chat, or just let us know that you've enjoyed it, and do let me know. It's always nice to hear.
Yeah, exactly. I think with all of these things, it's just about opening the door to trying. I think those things that, and it's so often the case, these things are so simple, and why would you not try? Because you might not take to it, perhaps you're too much of a pessimist, or whatever reason you don't really connect with it and it's not for you. But why not give it a try? Because you might just completely change your life and get to your dream life that you thought wasn't possible. But by changing and using different tools, you can get there.
Exactly. And even if you just go and follow Vibe and Flow, that's a free thing that you can do. That's not me asking you for any money. There's lots of free resources and things. And there's 3 or 4 free resources on my website. There's a money mindset challenge, and there's free downloads and things like that. So even if you're like, oh, I'm still on the fence, then go and check those free resources out. If you're wanting to take it to the next level, I suggest either the cards or the journals are a really great place for someone to start. But ultimately, you don't need to buy anything to get started. It depends on how much commitment you want to have and what you want to do and what you. It's Chloe Slade on Instagram.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm going to pop all the links to all of those websites and Instagram pages onto the show notes so that people can click straight through, because I have no doubt that they're going to want to find out a little bit more about this.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for everyone who's listened today. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. It was a great conversation. Thank you so much for listening to that episode. I hope you enjoyed the conversation that I had with Chloe as much as I did having it. I think we covered so many things revolving around manifestation. So even though the sound quality was occasionally a little bit dodgy, I hope you could stick with it and you have taken lots of different points that perhaps you are now deciding to give a try. I would love to hear from you. So as always, please do get in touch. You can email me directly, hello@livefitnow.co.uk, or just use the show notes and click through to my social media, or you can get in touch with Chloe as well. If you enjoyed this episode or another one that you've listened to, please do share it with your friends and family. Word of mouth is such a powerful way to spread the message of the Live Fit Now podcast. And you can also sponsor and support the podcast by using buymeacoffee.com/livefitnow, where you can support the making of this very podcast. I hope you have a wonderful week. Until next time.